A humble girl handed an Easter basket to a lonely stranger on the street, never imagining he was a millionaire in disguise. What happened next revealed the true meaning of compassion. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. The bells of St. Margaret's Church rang brightly that Easter morning, their echoes carrying through the small downtown streets. Despite the chill still lingering in the early hours, a certain warmth and excitement pulsed in the air. Children dressed in their Sunday best chased each other around the courtyard, clutching tiny baskets filled with colored eggs and candy. Amid this cheerful bustle, 17-year-old Lucy Williams stood near the entrance of the church, carefully tying a pastel ribbon around the handle of an Easter basket she had prepared the night before. Lucy came from a long line of seamstresses and domestic workers. Humility and hard work were woven into the fabric of her life. She'd spent her Easter Eve baking sweet bread and sugar cookies for her little cousins, then realized she had just enough ingredients left over to prepare something small for someone in need. Growing up in a modest household taught her that while she couldn't solve every problem, a simple gesture, extended at the right moment, could mean the world to someone lonely or forgotten. That morning, Lucy's eyes roamed the street in search of the right person, almost like someone with an inner compass guiding her quietly toward a calling. She spotted the usual crowds: an older couple heading to the grocery store, a group of teenagers laughing among themselves, and a woman in business attire clearly running late for a shift. Yet Lucy felt no pull from any of these faces. It was as if her heart was listening for something deeper, a silent signal telling her exactly who needed that basket of freshly baked bread and hand-painted eggs. Suddenly, the scuffle of worn-out shoes against concrete caught her attention. A tall, gaunt man in a wrinkled shirt and old coat moved hesitantly down the sidewalk. His posture was slightly hunched, as though the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. Despite the bright Easter sun, he wore a knitted cap that concealed most of his face, leaving only a glimpse of tired eyes and a scruffy beard. Lucy guessed he might be in his 50s, but there was an air of youth in his movement, a residual spark perhaps of the person he'd once been. Standing at the church steps, Lucy watched him pause, as if uncertain where to go next. A pang of concern tugged at her. In her gut, she knew, that's who I should give this basket to. She hurried down the stairs, weaving around a few children playing hopscotch on the sidewalk, until she stood close enough to address him. At first, he didn't notice her. His gaze was lost somewhere far beyond the busy intersection. Yet when Lucy gently tapped his coat sleeve, the man turned, revealing an expression caught between embarrassment and curiosity. "Excuse me," Lucy said, her voice tremulous but kind. "It's Easter Sunday, and I made this for you." She held out the small basket lined with a bright cloth. Inside lay half a dozen chocolate eggs, a small loaf of sweet bread, and a simple card that read, "You are not alone." His reaction was not immediate. He looked at the basket, blinking as if unsure whether her gesture was real. Then he cautiously reached out, letting his fingertips graze the cloth. One could almost see the swirl of emotions behind his guarded eyes: surprise, gratitude, and perhaps shame at being offered charity. For a moment Lucy worried she had offended him, but then she noticed how his hand trembled ever so slightly, not from cold, but from the rush of unexpected kindness. "Why?" he asked quietly. Lucy's cheeks flushed. In truth, she had no detailed explanation. She just felt in her heart that it was the right thing. "Well, it's Easter, and I saw you standing alone. Sometimes small things can brighten a day," she replied. I'm Lucy, by the way." He cleared his throat. "Lucy." The word seemed new on his tongue, as though he hadn't spoken anyone's name in a long while. "Thank you, I'm Sam." Neighbors passing by offered quick glances, some curious, some disapproving. Lucy felt a couple of them might be silently judging her for wasting her time on a stranger who seemed down on his luck. But Lucy had never been one to let others' stares or assumptions dictate her decisions. With gentle insistence, she pushed the handle of the basket into Sam's hand. He stared at the goodies inside, noticing the delicate care. Each egg meticulously dyed, the sweet bread shaped into a small braided loaf with pastel sprinkles. The card was handwritten in neat, youthful script. The kindness felt so foreign that he almost wanted to thrust it back at her, but something in Lucy's sincere expression made him hold on to it. "Are you from around here?" Lucy ventured, hoping to break the awkward silence that followed. Sam's gaze flicked past her, across the street toward an abandoned building, then back to her face. "Number Y. I've been wandering around for a while now." His voice trailed off, as if details about his journey were best left unsaid. From the corner of her eye, Lucy saw two of her church friends waving at her, beckoning her to return for Easter brunch. She hesitated, glancing between the group waiting for her and the lonely figure who looked one nudge away from slipping back into the invisible cracks of the city. "I'm supposed to be at a gathering right now," Lucy said apologetically, "but I'd like to talk to you more if that's okay." Sam nodded, but his posture suggested he was poised to retreat, uncertain if he could trust her offer. "You're kind," he said in a low voice. "Most folks don't even look me in the eye." Lucy smiled, gesturing to the metal bench by the church fence, away from the hustle and bustle of the main sidewalk. "Let's sit for a second, just so you can enjoy the treats in peace." She didn't want to push too hard, fearful that if she insisted too much, he might vanish like a startled deer. Yet something about Sam's presence called out to her deeply, as though life had placed her here at this moment to do more than merely hand him a basket. Once seated, Sam lifted the bread carefully and inhaled its comforting aroma. Lucy watched as his eyes momentarily softened, a hint of relief crossing his features. "Freshly baked," he murmured, biting off a small piece. "Reminds me of home, a long, long time ago." Lucy drew a breath, feeling the significance of his words. "Where's home for you?" she asked softly. Sam didn't answer immediately. He swallowed the bread, then stared at the scribbled note inside the card. "You are not alone." "I'm not sure I have a home now," he said. "Left what I had decades ago." A twinge of sadness sprouted in Lucy's chest as she realized how many stories lie hidden behind the eyes of those who drift unseen through our daily lives. She took a moment before speaking again. "Well, do you know anyone here in town?" He shook his head. "Number I arrived yesterday. It's, complicated. Sometimes I just keep moving." His tone implied that he didn't want to delve into the specifics, and Lucy respected that boundary. Still, she felt a gentle determination to help him, if only for a few minutes of warmth and conversation on Easter. She rummaged in her pocket and pulled out a pen, scribbling her phone number and address on a slip of paper. "My house is small, just me and my dad and my younger brother. But if you ever need anything or if there's something I can do..." She handed him the slip. Sam stared at the small piece of paper, uncertain. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me." Lucy thought back to the nights she spent sewing clothes by candlelight, ignoring her blistered fingers, or the times she'd watched her father come home exhausted from 2 jobs and yet still find the energy to place a simple meal on the table for them. She had seen enough hardship in her short life to understand that compassion was sometimes all people had to keep going. "Because someone once helped my family when we had almost nothing," Lucy said. "Because it's Easter, and that's a reminder that hope can arrive in the most unexpected ways." For a moment, Sam said nothing. Then he placed Lucy's slip of paper inside the Easter basket as though storing a rare treasure. The church bells began to ring again, signaling the end of the morning service. Several families strolled out, laughing and greeting acquaintances, children skipping around them with candy-filled baskets. The scene contrasted starkly with the quiet, tenuous connection forming between Lucy and this mysterious stranger. "I think I should be going," Sam finally said, clearing his throat to cover what Lucy sensed was growing emotion. "But thank you, really. This means something." Lucy rose from the bench, smoothing out her simple cotton dress. "I'll see you around, Sam," she replied, offering a warm smile. Then she turned and hurried toward the church hall for Easter brunch. A part of her felt she was leaving something undone. Another part believed that if she'd pressed too hard, he might have slipped away before the moment could unfold fully. As Lucy joined the brunch, answering curious questions about where she'd been, her heart remained partly outside on that bench. She couldn't help wondering where Sam would go next, and whether her small act of kindness might lead to something bigger than she could ever imagine. All the while, Sam lingered a few more minutes by the fence, watching Lucy from a distance, as if caught in the pull of her genuine sincerity. Then he stood, basket in hand, and walked away into the bustling street. Little did Lucy know that beneath his worn coat and humble appearance was a man who held enough power and resources to change her life, and indeed many lives in that town. But for now, the city saw only a weary traveler, invisible among the holiday crowds. Yet in his heart, something shifted. The kindness of one humble girl had broken through years of weariness, and with each step he took, Sam felt an unfamiliar warmth. He didn't quite understand it, but as he clasped that basket, he silently promised himself to repay the generosity that had been extended to him under the bright Easter sun. Afternoon came swiftly. The Easter festivities in town turned the usually quiet Main Street into a lively mix of laughter and music. Small tables appeared outside shops, where families and neighbors chatted over cups of lemonade or sweet tea. But as rays of sunlight stretched across the pavement, Lucy Williams found her mind drifting back to the stranger she had met that morning. She couldn't quite shake off the look of hesitant hope in Sam's eyes when she handed him that Easter basket. A few doors down from the church, Lucy's father owned a modest tailoring shop. The front sign read, "Williams and Son Alterations," a legacy passed down in her family for 2 generations. Inside, bolts of fabric lined one wall, and several dress forms stood in various stages of pinning and stitching. Old-fashioned sewing machines hummed under the careful hands of Lucy and her father. That afternoon, Lucy was reinforcing the seams of a bridesmaid dress, pale lavender satin that kept slipping under her needle. As she sewed, her father ambled out of the back storage room, wiping sweat from his brow. Despite the lively atmosphere outside, he had 3 urgent alterations due by the next day. "You're quieter than usual," Mr. Williams remarked, settling onto a chair beside Lucy's workspace. "Something on your mind?" Lucy hesitated, eyes fixed on her work. "I met someone outside the church earlier," she said. Her father's gaze flicked up. "He seemed alone. Homeless, I think. I gave him some bread and eggs I'd made. It just felt right to help somehow." Mr. Williams observed his daughter's expression, an earnest mix of concern and curiosity. "You've always had a big heart," he said quietly, recalling the countless times Lucy had shared her lunch with classmates who couldn't afford meals or patched the clothes of neighbors without charging them a cent. "Just be careful. Not everyone receives kindness easily. Some folks have reasons they don't accept help." Lucy nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line. She knew her father spoke from experience. Ever since her mother passed away, she had watched him wrestle quietly with the shame of sometimes needing assistance from their church community. "I know," she admitted, "but something in me says I was supposed to meet him. I can't explain it." Reaching over, her father squeezed her hand lightly. "That's your intuition. I've learned never to ignore it." Then he gave her a small, wry smile. "Anyway, why don't you take a break for a bit? I'll manage here for an hour. Go see if he's still around, if that's weighing on you." Lucy's eyes lit up, relief mingled with gratitude. "Thank you, Dad. I won't be long." She set aside the half-finished seam, hopped off her stool, and removed the stray pins from her apron pocket. After washing her hands and grabbing her coat, she stepped into the bright, music-filled streets. Despite the mid-afternoon bustle, Lucy felt certain she would recognize Sam if she saw him again. She scanned the sidewalks near the church and local market, weaving through clusters of friends and families. But there was no sign of him. Occasional passers-by offered her polite nods, but none knew who she was looking for, or even that she was looking at all. When she reached the benches in front of the church, she found them empty. Feeling mildly defeated, Lucy sank onto a wooden bench, letting her thoughts swirl. The day's warmth, the melodies from a street violinist, and the swirl of chatter around her contrasted sharply with the pang of worry in her heart. She began to doubt herself. Had she overstepped? Maybe Sam had moved on to the next town? Maybe he hadn't appreciated her approach at all? Moments later, she heard soft footsteps on the grass behind her. Lucy turned around quickly, only to find the kindly face of old Mr. Griffith, a longtime friend of her father's. "Afternoon, Lucy." He tipped his cap, a weathered smile forming. "Heard you made quite the impression on a wandering gentleman this morning." Lucy's heartbeat quickened. "You saw him?" "I might have." Mr. Griffith rubbed his chin. "He left the church area not too long ago, headed out past the old train station. Looked a bit lost. Quiet fellow from what I could tell." Lucy stood. "Thank you, Mr. Griffith, She paused, uncertain how to explain why she needed to find Sam so badly. "I just hope he's all right." Mr. Griffith gave a gentle shrug. "You've got your daddy's sense of kindness, Lucy. If the man is meant to cross your path again, he will." Then, with a nod, he ambled on, whistling a cheerful tune. Lucy lingered another moment, weighing whether to continue her search. But her father's shop needed her back, and she'd already spent the better part of the hour roaming. Reluctantly, she headed homeward, replaying her brief conversation with Sam. The words, "You are not alone," echoed in her mind. Meanwhile, across town, in a quiet alley near the defunct train depot, Sam sat on a low concrete ledge, basket in hand. He wasn't rummaging the basket, he was simply gazing at it, as though the items inside symbolized some anchor he hadn't known he needed. Occasionally, a group of teenagers would walk by, or a passerby would glance at him with a mix of pity or indifference. None stopped to speak, and Sam didn't lift his head to greet them. At length, the sound of approaching footsteps startled him. A tall, broad-shouldered man, perhaps in his late 40s, stepped into the alley, wearing a crisp suit that contrasted sharply with the dinginess of his surroundings. He looked at Sam with keen interest, and for a moment, something akin to recognition flickered across Sam's face. "Been a while," the suited man said, his tone polite but firm. He gestured at Sam's worn coat. "You look different than usual." Sam tensed. "Don't start. Relax. I'm not here to cause trouble, unless you've decided to run this whole operation into the ground." The man's gaze traveled to the Easter basket. "New friend, I see?" Sam's expression darkened with caution. He set the basket aside, standing up slowly. "None of your business." The suited man raised a placating hand. "All right, we got word from the board. They've been looking for you, concerned about your absence." His eyes flicked around the alley. "Never pictured you here." "Yeah, well, a man can move around," Sam replied curtly. "I needed to step away." Tension buzzed in the air. It was clear that beneath whatever facade Sam carried, there was a deeper story, one this imposing visitor was very much a part of. "And the company?" the man pressed. "People are asking questions. The staff, the board, our investors." Sam swallowed, annoyance flashing in his eyes. "I don't care about investors today. I told you all, I'm taking a break." "A break doesn't mean vanishing. We have commitments, obligations." Sam inhaled, fighting the urge to bark at him to leave. He picked up the Easter basket, holding it close, almost protectively. Something about Lucy's kindness made him recoil at the thought of returning to the cold world of corporate demands. "Go back and tell them I'm fine," he said at last. "I'll return when I'm ready, under my terms." The visitor gave a short, professional nod. "They won't like it, but I'll let them know. Just remember, time is money, and right now the clock is ticking." He turned to go, then paused, glancing over his shoulder. "Don't fall in too deep with this life. You have resources. Don't pretend you don't." Sam's jaw tightened. Goodbye. When the stranger disappeared around the corner, Sam exhaled in shaky relief, his head throbbing from the tension. That stifling feeling of being trapped by obligations and expectations came roaring back. His gaze dropped to the folded slip of paper tucked into the basket. "Lucy Williams," he murmured, reading the neat script of her phone number and address. Such a stark contrast to the world he'd left behind, her gesture so free of demands or hidden motives. For a second, he considered dialing her number, but he swiftly squashed the thought. Why drag her into the mess that was his life? She was a kind, humble girl, and he couldn't tarnish her bright spirit. He replaced the note back in the basket, brushing his fingers over the embroidered cloth that lined it. The afternoon sun sank lower, painting the alley walls with golden light. Sam sat down again, not quite certain what his next step would be. But he sensed one thing clearly. Lucy had given him a gift he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. He intended to hold on to it as long as he could, even if that meant keeping his real identity a secret from the very person who'd shown him such simple, disarming compassion. Lucy managed to work through her shift at the family's tailoring shop with only half her usual focus. She kept hearing her father's sewing machine whir alongside hers, the rhythmic sounds lulling the shop into a subdued calm. But her mind still returned to Sam in the alleyway, wondering if he had found somewhere safe to rest, or even a meal beyond the small loaf she'd baked. Business was moderate that day. An elderly customer needed a dress hemmed for her granddaughter's concert, a bride-to-be arrived for final fittings, and a local restaurant owner dropped by with new uniforms he needed tailored. Lucy continued pinning and stitching, drawing on muscle memory for each seam. Hours slipped by in fits and starts. The faint jingle of the bell above the front door announced comings and goings. Occasional laughter or conversation provided a comfortable backdrop, yet none of it quite pulled her from her thoughts. By early evening, Mr. Williams suggested they close up for the holiday. He hated the idea of leaving customers hanging, but he also knew Easter was meant to be spent with loved ones, sharing meals and gratitude. Lucy agreed, silently grateful for the chance to get away from the whir of sewing machines and the swirling questions in her head. They locked the shop, flipping the sign to closed. The father-daughter pair strolled home, passing by lively yards where children hunted for stray Easter eggs missed that morning. A gentle breeze carried the scent of barbecue and grilled corn. At one particularly festive house, music poured from a portable speaker and neighbors stood around chatting, arms laden with potluck dishes. "Shame we can't stop by for a bit," Mr. Williams commented as they walked. He gestured at a tray of fresh bread one neighbor carried. "But your grandma is expecting us soon." He was referring to the annual Williams family dinner, a small but treasured tradition. Grandma Williams lived just a mile or so away, and every Easter she prepared a spread of roasted vegetables, sweet rolls, baked ham, and a special lemon cake Lucy's mother had loved. Lucy smiled wanly. "I'm looking forward to it, just can't help but think of how many people won't have a meal tonight." Mr. Williams took a moment before responding. "You did what you could for the man you met, Lucy, and if it's meant to be, maybe you'll see him again soon." Her father's words were meant to comfort, but Lucy sensed he, too, understood the pang of wanting to help more than your resources allowed. They turned onto a quieter street lined with smaller, older homes. Her father paused at their front gate, a humble wooden arch entwined with ivy, then pulled it open with a small creak. The house itself was modest. White siding in need of repainting, a porch swing that squeaked every time someone used it. But the glow of light inside, and the bright potted flowers Lucy had planted, made it feel welcoming and safe. Before they could step inside, Lucy's brother Caleb burst out, still in his Sunday clothes, but missing a tie and one shoe. "I've been waiting forever," he declared dramatically, though he was only 10. "Grandma called, said we better not be late." Lucy laughed and ruffled Caleb's hair, which he promptly tried to smooth back into place. He had inherited their father's stubborn swirl of curls. "Let me get changed first," Lucy said. "Then we'll go." As she headed to her bedroom, Lucy noticed the living room window offered a view of the street. On an impulse, she peered out, half hoping to see Sam strolling by. The block was empty, shadows lengthening under lampposts. She sighed, wishing she could do more than hope. Within 15 minutes, Lucy had switched to a simple pastel sundress and tied her hair in a low ponytail. She brushed on a bit of lip gloss, an indulgence, but it was a holiday after all. Then, with her father and Caleb already waiting at the door, they stepped out into the mild evening. Grandma Williams lived on the edge of town, where houses grew sparser and tall trees lined the road. Lucy watched dusk settle over the fields as they walked. Occasionally a car passed, headlights sweeping over them in brief, bright arcs. The family's conversation was light. Caleb recounted the highlight of his day, finding the golden egg in a local Easter hunt. Mr. Williams teased Lucy about how many wedding dresses she'd altered that month, and Lucy asked her father how the newly hired apprentice in the shop was doing. But behind each exchange lay that subtle air of longing, the awareness that someone else out there might be alone. By the time they arrived at Grandma's, the sky had shifted to a deep blue. Her small house exuded warmth. The windows glowed a soft yellow, and the smell of freshly baked rolls wafted through the open kitchen door. Grandma herself was short, stout, and wore a floral apron dusted with flour. The moment Lucy stepped in, Grandma enveloped her in a tight hug. "There's my sweet Lucy," Grandma proclaimed, pressing a gentle kiss to her granddaughter's cheek. "I heard you've been busy at the shop. That father of yours works you too hard." Lucy laughed, exchanging glances with Mr. Williams. "I enjoy it, Grandma. Plus, I learn from the best." While Mr. Williams and Caleb removed their shoes and washed up, Lucy wandered into the kitchen to help with final touches. The table was set with mismatched plates and a vase of daisies as a centerpiece. A large pot on the stove bubbled with herb-infused broth. The smell of lemon cake in the oven made Lucy's stomach growl. "I'm just about done here," Grandma said, stirring the pot. "Your father said you had an interesting morning." Lucy knew how quickly stories circulated in their tight-knit family. She nodded, relaying a condensed version of her brief encounter, her decision to give away the Easter basket, the stranger's hesitation, and his name, Sam. Grandma Williams listened, eyebrows raised, then gave Lucy a knowing look. A simple act can mean the world to someone who has nothing. Lucy sighed. "I wish I could have done more." "Sometimes, child, it's enough just to plant a seed." Grandma gave the stew a final stir, then covered the pot. "Now help me carry these dishes out and we'll talk more later." Soon the family gathered at the table, passing platters of roast chicken, glazed carrots, and mashed potatoes. Caleb loaded his plate with extra biscuits, earning gentle ribbing from their father. Conversation hummed with the comforting normalcy of family banter, and for a while, Lucy let herself be immersed in the coziness of that moment. It reminded her that not everyone had this refuge, a place to return to, people to love you unconditionally. After dinner, they cleared the plates and gathered in the living room for dessert. Grandma served slices of the lemon cake, its icing tangy and sweet. Caleb devoured his portion in minutes, while Lucy tried to savor every bite. Mr. Williams, looking content, asked if Lucy would play something on the piano, a relic from Lucy's Mother's days. Lucy complied, her fingers lightly touching the worn keys, producing a gentle melody that floated through the house. Halfway through her tune, Grandma discreetly motioned for Lucy to join her in the hallway. Lucy ended the song, excused herself, and found Grandma waiting, arms folded with a thoughtful expression. "Dear," Grandma said softly, "I remember a time when your mother and I offered food to a traveling couple passing through. They had a young child, no money, barely any food. Your mom insisted we help despite our own limited means. I was worried we couldn't afford it, but your mother said something I never forgot. Love is the one thing that grows the more you share it." Lucy felt her eyes sting at the memory of her mother, someone who had radiated generosity. "I just keep thinking about Sam. There's something about him. He seems so alone." Grandma placed a hand on Lucy's shoulder. "Some folks carry secrets, burdens they can't easily shed. If it's in your path to meet again, you'll know what to do." She offered a small smile. "Sometimes it takes only one true friend to remind someone that they matter." Lucy nodded, a wave of gratitude washing over her that she had such supportive family members. She and her grandmother shared a quick hug, then returned to the living room where Caleb was begging to leave soon. He wanted to save time to watch a holiday special on TV before bed. Everyone laughed, and they said their goodbyes. They left Grandma's house under a crescent moon, the air now cooler. The walk back seemed shorter somehow, and Lucy's heart felt lighter. Her grandmother's words echoed in her head, weaving into the hope that Lucy might see Sam again. When they arrived home, Mr. Williams locked up, and Caleb rushed inside to change into pajamas. Lucy lingered on the porch, gazing at the silent street. The lamplight illuminated the empty sidewalk. In her mind, she pictured Sam's weary face, his caution, and the gentle way he'd held that basket. She whispered a silent wish that he was safe somewhere. Tomorrow would bring another routine day at the shop, but Lucy had a sense that her world was shifting in subtle ways. Life had taught her that big changes often start quietly, like a seed planted in an act of kindness. Perhaps that Easter basket was the beginning of something neither she nor Sam could yet comprehend. For now, though, she stepped inside, letting the porch light glow behind her, a small beacon in case any weary traveler passed by looking for hope. The next morning dawned with crisp air and a pale sky. Lucy woke before her alarm, drawn from sleep by a flutter of excitement she couldn't quite name. Outside her window, the worn picket fence cast slender shadows on the dew-covered grass, and tiny birds hopped along its rails. As she dressed, choosing a soft lilac blouse and simple gray skirt, her mind drifted again to Sam and the unexpected sense of purpose she'd felt while offering him a small gesture of kindness. At breakfast, Mr. Williams prepared a modest meal of toast and scrambled eggs. Caleb stumbled into the kitchen still yawning, his hair a tousled mop. He clutched a math workbook he needed help with before school. Lucy quickly went over fractions with him, half focused on the clock, conscious that she wanted to open the shop early. She had a wedding gown to finish, a high-paying rush order that could bring in some much-needed income. By the time they all stepped onto the porch, the sun was fully above the horizon, and a faint warmth began to dispel the lingering chill. Caleb dashed off to catch the school bus at the corner. Lucy and her father walked leisurely to the tailoring shop a few blocks away, exchanging morning pleasantries with neighbors setting out trash bins or hosing down front steps. It felt comforting in its routine, this familiar route, and the small talk that stitched their community together. As they passed the church, Lucy paused. Her eyes swept the courtyard where she'd first encountered Sam, half hoping he might be there again. The benches lay empty except for a few scattered candy wrappers from the day before. The only sounds were an occasional car passing and a lone pigeon cooing atop the church roof. Her father noticed her hesitation. "Still thinking about him?" he asked gently. Lucy offered a sheepish nod. "I know it's silly. I just wish I knew he was okay." Mr. Williams patted her shoulder. "We can't always know how our kindness pans out. Sometimes all we can do is hope." They continued on, soon arriving at Williams & Son Alterations. Lucy unlocked the door and flipped the closed sign to open. The morning sun cast rays through the shop's windows, illuminating scattered threads on the wooden floor. She switched on the overhead lights and her father headed straight to a corner workstation where a client's jacket hung pinned and ready for a final fit. By mid-morning, the shop buzzed with low-level activity. 2 customers dropped off garments. The phone rang with a new inquiry, and Lucy lost herself in the meditative rhythm of sewing. Outside, the hum of the street rose as more people started their days. Deliveries arriving, office workers grabbing coffee, and an older gentleman walking his dog. Through it all, Lucy occasionally glanced at the door, almost expecting it to open and reveal a certain quiet man in a worn coat. But Sam did not appear. Instead, life swept on in an unbroken pattern of normalcy. In a different part of town, where old warehouses stood near the abandoned train lines, Sam was rummaging through his pockets. He had left the small alley where Lucy had first seen him, choosing instead to move around aimlessly. Yet he found himself drawn to the outskirts, half hiding from the main thoroughfares and the watchful eyes of people who might recognize him. That morning, he'd awoken stiff and chilled behind a disused shipping container, only to discover he had no plan for the day. For a man with resources beyond most people's wildest dreams, it was an ironic predicament. The truth was, Sam's phone was stuffed in his jacket pocket, fully charged. He'd never parted with it. But using it meant tangling back with the corporate world he was fleeing. He was still torn between the relief of anonymity and the mounting responsibilities that loomed like a storm. Finally, Sam switched on the device just long enough to see a flurry of messages from a handful of board members, plus an unknown number he suspected belonged to Lucy, typed into his contacts, but never dialed. The flood of notifications made his stomach twist. A text from the CFO demanded an urgent meeting. Another from his personal assistant read, "We've arranged a suite for your return. Please advise." Then one from the man he'd seen yesterday. "We can't keep stalling, Sam. Talk to me." Sighing, Sam powered the phone off again. He slipped it back into his coat, hooking his gaze around the deserted railroad siding. There was a battered vending machine by a service entrance, probably empty or out of order, but he approached anyway, feeding in a few coins. He managed to wrangle a half-stale bag of peanuts out of it. Not the breakfast of champions, but better than nothing. Sam chewed slowly, reflecting on Lucy's note, still folded safely in his inside pocket, along with that little slip of embroidered cloth from the Easter basket. He recalled how easily she'd handed over her phone number, how sincerely she'd extended help with no strings attached. If only the rest of the world worked like that, he thought grimly. Instead, he was entangled in deals, mergers, personal obligations, and a veneer of wealth that never seemed to bring real peace. He finished the peanuts and set off walking. With no clear destination, he wandered toward downtown. And with each step, he fought warring impulses. Part of him wanted to remain invisible, to exist solely as a drifter among the city's unnoticed corners. Another part felt drawn to Lucy's kindness like a beacon in the dark. He told himself he only wanted to confirm she was as genuine as she seemed, a naive but well-intentioned girl. Or perhaps he needed to prove to himself that her compassion wasn't just a fluke. Truth be told, he also craved the simple warmth of her presence. Meanwhile, midday at Williams & Son Alterations brought a minor crisis. The bride Lucy had been sewing for was arriving early, and Lucy was just finishing the last bits of lace. Mr. Williams handled 2 new walk-in clients, politely explaining that the bride's final fitting took priority. A small queue formed by the counter, but no one seemed too irritated. Most were locals who trusted the Williams family's craftsmanship. After a flurry of measuring tape, pins, and re-hemmed edges, Lucy helped the bride into the gown. The woman twirled, beaming at her reflection in a full-length mirror. The fit wasn't quite perfect yet. Another inch off the waist and the train needed a quick adjustment. Lucy pinned skillfully, ignoring the slight prick of a needle on her finger. "Thank you so much, Lucy," the bride breathed, tears in her eyes. "I know it's short notice. I can't believe you managed it." Lucy smiled. "You look beautiful. I'm happy we could make it work." She gently lifted a stray thread from the hem. "Give me half an hour to secure these changes, and it'll be ready." The bride stepped off the platform, still in her half-pinned dress, and looked around the shop with bright eyes. Just then, the bell over the entrance jingled. Lucy glanced up to greet whoever walked in, her hands full of lace and pins, when her heart gave a sudden jolt. In the doorway stood Sam, the worn coat, the knitted cap pulled low. He seemed hesitant, almost ready to retreat, but their eyes met. Lucy's lips parted in surprise, but before she could speak, Mr. Williams approached from behind the counter. "Hello there," her father said politely. "Can I help?" Lucy quickly stood, carefully handing the pins to the bride so they wouldn't scatter on the floor. "Dad, it's okay. I'll be right back." With an apologetic smile at the bride, Lucy stepped away, weaving through the racks of garments until she reached Sam. Despite the small line of customers behind them, an odd hush seemed to cloak that corner of the shop. "You found us," Lucy said, her tone both surprised and relieved. Sam nodded, his gaze dropping briefly to the floor. "I was passing by," he half lied. "Didn't realize this was your family's shop until I saw the name on the sign." Lucy didn't press him for details, her happiness overshadowing her questions. "I'm glad you came in. Are you all right?" His eyes flicked over the busy interior, the bride in her pinned dress, the spool of thread on the counter, the faint hum of sewing machines. This was Lucy's world, warm and bustling. He wondered if he truly fit into it, even for a moment. "Doing okay," he answered gruffly. "I just wanted to say thanks for what you did yesterday." Lucy felt a wave of relief, a sense that maybe her worry hadn't been in vain. She gestured toward the sewing stations, mindful of the customers waiting. "Would you mind if I finish up here and talk to you outside? I don't want you to leave before we can chat." Sam hesitated, the tension in his shoulders evident. The rest of the line was watching discreetly, and Lucy's father looked curious from behind the counter. Finally, Sam gave a slow nod. "Sure." Lucy exhaled. "If you step just outside to the bench, I'll be done in 20 minutes. Is that okay?" Sam's gaze met hers. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that she genuinely cared. "I'll wait." He turned and left, the door jingling behind him. Lucy watched him go, heart fluttering. A moment later, she forced herself to snap back to the bride, the fitting, and the handful of waiting customers. Professionalism first, but inside, excitement warred with urgency. Why had he appeared now? Had something happened overnight? She tried to keep her composure as she completed the bride's last adjustments, carefully stitching the lace in place. Each minute felt longer than usual, especially as she glimpsed Sam sitting on the small wooden bench outside. He kept his cap low, occasionally glancing at the traffic. Finally, Lucy finished up, pinned the final hem, and arranged for the bride to return the next day. The bride departed, beaming from ear to ear. The line of customers had mostly been handled by Mr. Williams. Lucy cast him a grateful look, then exchanged a quick word with him. "I'll be back, Dad." As she walked out the door, the midday sun bathed the sidewalk in bright light. Sam sat there, elbows on his knees, staring at nothing in particular. When he saw Lucy approach, he rose to his feet out of habit, then remembered himself and sat back down self-consciously. Lucy joined him, leaving a small space between them. "Thank you for waiting," she said gently. "I'm sorry I was tied up." Sam shook his head. "It's your job. Looked like you had your hands full." A brief silence ensued, filled by the hum of a passing car and the faint melody drifting from a street musician around the corner. Lucy watched Sam's features, noticing the faint lines of weariness near his eyes. "Did you find somewhere to stay last night?" she asked, trying not to sound too probing. He gave a half shrug. "Managed. I'm used to moving around, so I'm all right." Lucy's heart clenched. She suspected his definition of managed meant nowhere truly safe or comfortable. "Well, I'm glad you came," she said softly, leaning forward. "Can I offer you something to eat? We have some snacks inside. Nothing fancy, but better than nothing." Sam's gaze flicked toward the shop window where customers still milled about. "I don't want to trouble you." "You're not. Lucy hesitated, wanting to be truthful. "I was worried. I wanted to help more." Sam's shoulders relaxed minutely. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. "Maybe just a glass of water. Then I'll get out of your way." Before Lucy could reply, the door to the shop opened again, revealing Mr. Williams stepping out with 2 cups of cold lemonade. He offered one to Sam and the other to Lucy, a warm smile on his face. "Figured you might like something more than plain water," he said kindly. Then he extended a hand to Sam, that same fatherly smile in place. "I'm Will Williams, Lucy's dad." Sam grasped his hand briefly, nodding. "Sam, thanks." Mr. Williams lingered just a moment, giving Lucy a subtle, encouraging look before heading back inside. Sam eyed the lemonade, almost uneasy with the courtesy. He took a sip, the tangy sweetness startling but refreshing on his dry throat. Lucy sighed with relief. For a time, they just sat sipping lemonade, letting the mild breeze brush by. She could sense how uneasy Sam felt receiving help, but she also saw the softness in his eyes from that first day, like something was shifting behind his guarded demeanor. At last, Sam cleared his throat. "Not sure how long I'll be in town," he admitted, "but it's nice to meet decent people every once in a while." Lucy's cheeks warmed. "We're just doing what anyone should," she said quietly. Then her voice grew firmer. "I'm not trying to pry, but if you need anything else, a place to rest, a meal, I'd like to help. My family would too." Sam stared at the cup in his hands. He remembered the suits he'd left behind, the skyscraper offices, the board members hounding him. And here was Lucy, offering compassion without demands. The contrast weighed heavily on him. "I appreciate it," he murmured. "I might take you up on that sometime." Lucy smiled, her heart lifting. She felt an odd certainty that their paths hadn't crossed by accident. The gratitude in his voice told her that a small sliver of trust was forming. They finished their lemonade quietly, the conversation drifting to lighter topics. Lucy mentioning her father's shop, Sam asking vague questions about the town. Soon, though, he looked at the sky, as if measuring the time, and rose to leave. "Thank you again," he said, returning the cup. "I don't know. I'll see you around, maybe." Lucy stood as well, resisting the urge to press for details. She simply nodded. "You know where to find me," she replied gently. "Take care, Sam." He offered a subdued nod, then slipped his hands into his coat pockets and walked away. Lucy watched him meld into the busier part of the street, the crowd swallowing his figure. Inside the shop, Mr. Williams beckoned Lucy. "He all right?" Lucy exhaled. "Hard to tell, but he's okay for now." She glanced at the door, thinking how fleeting his presence always seemed, like a bird perching just long enough for a glimpse before flying off. "At least he knows we're here if he needs us." Her father nodded, returning to a spool of thread that had fallen onto the floor. "Guess that's all we can do. Let him know he's not alone." Lucy resumed her station, mindful that her work wasn't done. Yet a quiet excitement stirred within her. Something told her Sam would return sooner or later, perhaps when he finally realized that not all acts of kindness come with a price. The day drifted into late afternoon with Lucy immersed in her sewing tasks. Although her hands worked tirelessly at each garment, she couldn't entirely banish the quiet thrill of Sam's unexpected visit. After such a brief encounter, he was gone again, just as elusive as the first time. Yet the residue of his presence lingered, kindling a hope that he might trust her and her family enough to accept more help. Near the shop's closing time, Mr. Williams nudged Lucy gently. You've been at that gown for hours, dear. Maybe take a short walk or head home for a rest. I can finish up for the evening." Lucy glanced around. Only a few pinned dresses remained, plus a jacket Mr. Williams was mending. She checked the clock, 6:20 p.m. Usually they closed at 7. Their last customer had already left. "Are you sure, Dad?" she asked, feeling a slight tug of guilt. "I don't mind staying till closing." He smiled. "Go on. You've done enough for today. I'll lock up." Releasing a tired but contented sigh, Lucy slipped out of her apron and folded it neatly on the counter. She grabbed her coat and stepped outside into the balmy evening air. The sunlight had mellowed, bathing the street in a warm, golden glow. Shopkeepers stood in doorways, some waving at Lucy as she passed, while others began rolling down metal shutters. Though her mind urged her to simply go home, a part of her felt restless. She took a few aimless turns, strolling past the pastel-colored buildings and potted flowers that decorated the sidewalks. She lingered at a fruit stand where the vendor, an older woman with a cheerful grin, greeted her warmly. "Good evening, Lucy. How's your father's shop doing?" "Busy as ever, Mrs. Ruiz. Thanks for asking." Lucy glanced over the bright array of peaches, apples, and oranges. "Could I get a few apples, please?" Mrs. Ruiz nodded, selecting 3 ripe apples and placing them in a small paper bag. "These are on me, dear, for the lovely wedding dress you made for my niece last month." "Oh, that's so kind, but—" Mrs. Ruiz merely waved off Lucy's protest. "Take them. You and your family enjoy." Lucy thanked her profusely, then resumed her walk. The sweetness of such neighborly gestures never ceased to touch her heart. It reminded her how one act of help often returned in surprising ways, a quiet cycle of kindness. Soon she reached the edge of downtown. The buildings grew sparser here, giving way to older structures and wide lots. Lucy paused, scanning the deserted sidewalks, recalling that Sam had once drifted along these streets. She wasn't sure if her feet carried her there on purpose or by mere curiosity. But the memory of his weary eyes in that battered coat guided her steps. Rounding a corner, she spotted a dark silhouette by a fence. A person hunched as if resting or perhaps in some distress. Her pulse quickened. She advanced cautiously, only to discover it wasn't Sam at all but a young teenage boy rummaging through a backpack. She offered him a polite smile, relieved he didn't seem to be in trouble. Disappointed, Lucy walked on, the evening breeze stirring loose strands of her hair. Without a defined plan, she headed toward the small park a few blocks away. It wasn't large, just a patch of lawn with a couple of swings and benches under a lone oak tree, but it was a peaceful spot she often visited to clear her mind. She found it empty now, except for a stray cat lounging on the back of a bench. Lucy sat, letting the apple bag rest beside her. Faint chirps of crickets began to fill the air as dusk pressed closer. Her thoughts churned. Sam's wandering, his unspoken burdens, the swirl of worry she felt each time he vanished. Suddenly, the cat leaped off the bench, startled by something behind Lucy. She turned and saw a figure approaching, half hidden by the tall grass near the fence. Her heart gave a startled jump. She recognized the posture, the coat. It was Sam, standing a short distance away, as though unsure if he should come any closer. "Sam?" she called gently, rising from the bench. "Is that you?" He moved into clearer view, hands deep in his pockets, a tentative look in his eyes. "You're out here alone?" Lucy held up the small paper bag. "I was just taking a walk after work. Needed some fresh air." She eyed him carefully, noting the slight slump of his shoulders. "Are you all right?" He shrugged, stepping forward. "I'm fine. Just saw you walking this way. Didn't mean to startle you." His gaze flickered to the bag. "You got dinner?" "Just apples," Lucy replied, then felt a sudden impulse. "Would you like one? They're fresh." Sam hesitated for a beat before nodding. She passed him an apple, and he cradled it in one hand, eyeing it almost like it was something precious. Lucy's heart clenched again. She longed to ask him more about his situation, where he was staying, if there was anything he desperately needed, but she feared pushing him too hard would make him retreat. They settled back onto the bench, a companionable silence draping over them. The park's single lamppost flickered on, illuminating a circle of grass around them. Sam took a careful bite of the apple. It crunched loudly in the hush of the evening, and Lucy guessed he might not have eaten much since their midday lemonade. "Thanks," he murmured, after swallowing. "You keep feeding me." She smiled softly. "We keep meeting when you're hungry, I guess." A faint chuckle escaped him, unexpected but welcome. He cast a glance at the dimming sky. The last streaks of pink and orange were fading into a pale violet, stars peeking out overhead. "Lucy," he started, hesitating. "Why, do you do all this? You don't know me, don't know where I'm from, or—" She gave him a gentle look. "I may not know your story, but I can see you're in a tough spot. Helping someone in need feels natural to me. My family's always believed in that. And you haven't given me any reason not to trust you." He stared at the apple, as though her words pulled at some hidden string in his chest. "People usually either look past me or try to take advantage. It's rare to find someone who just helps." Lucy saw the guarded pain behind his eyes. She couldn't fathom the complexities of his past, but she sensed he carried wounds deeper than mere homelessness. "I'm sorry that's been your experience," she said quietly. "I wish I could change it." For a moment, the crickets and the distant hum of traffic filled the silence. Then Sam, almost absently, pulled something from his coat pocket, the note Lucy had written, along with that small piece of embroidered cloth from the Easter basket. He looked at them, then turned to her. "I kept these," he admitted, "because it reminded me someone out there didn't see me as worthless. You said, 'You are not alone.'" His voice caught. "Not sure if I really believe that, but it's a comforting thought." Lucy's eyes glistened. She reached out and brushed her fingertips across the embroidered cloth, recalling the care she put into sewing it. "If you ever want to talk, or if you need a place to stay, even for one night, my father would understand. We don't have a big house, but we have a couch and a warm meal." Sam swallowed hard, uncertain how to respond. He'd spent years building an image of self-reliance, never letting anyone see his vulnerability or any sign of weakness. Yet Lucy's gentle sincerity tugged at him, making him yearn for simple human connection. "I might consider that." He looked down as though the confession cost him more than he liked. "But I don't want to inconvenience your family." "It wouldn't be," Lucy insisted. "We always manage to share what we have." Another lull in the conversation let the moment stretch. Lucy could tell Sam wrestled with wanting to open up versus a deeply ingrained instinct to keep his distance. She decided not to push, to let him set the pace of his own story. Instead, she asked softly, "Do you have any plans for tomorrow? Anywhere you need to be?" Sam almost laughed at the question. Plans felt like a foreign concept right now. "No," he answered simply. "I've been drifting." In another life, his calendar was always jam-packed with back-to-back meetings, business dinners, flights across the country. Now it was frightening and freeing all at once to have no obligations, except for the incessant buzzing in his pocket if he turned his phone on. Lucy nodded, taking in the fleeting sorrow that crossed his face. "Sometimes a little stillness can help you figure out what you really want," she offered. It was something her grandmother had told her repeatedly, advice Lucy herself found comforting when life felt overwhelming. Sam's expression shifted, a tiny hint of a smile. "Stillness," he repeated, as if testing the word. "Might be time for that." They both rose as the last hints of daylight vanished, the lamppost shining in a lonely glow. Lucy checked her watch. 7:15 p.m. It was about a 15-minute walk home for her, though she felt reluctant to end the conversation. "Would you like to walk me back?" she asked, gesturing in the direction of her neighborhood. "You don't have to. I just thought you might not have anywhere else to be." Sam weighed the invitation. A pang of caution urged him to keep a distance. Connecting more with Lucy risked complicating everything when the truth of who he was eventually came to light. Yet, standing in that dimly lit park, he felt the ache of loneliness more than ever. "Sure," he said finally. "I'll walk with you." They started along the sidewalk, Lucy matching her pace to his. The sky sparkled with the first bright stars. Occasionally, a car passed, headlights cutting across their figures, then receding. Lucy pointed out the local bakery, closed at this hour, and the small library that doubled as a community center. Sam listened, hands still in his pockets, hardly volunteering much about himself. But he asked a few gentle questions: how long Lucy had worked at the shop, what her mother had been like, whether she enjoyed living in a town where everyone knew each other. Lucy answered, her voice warm. She explained how her mother had taught her to sew, how her father had struggled to keep the shop afloat after her mother's passing, but the community had rallied around them. "It's not always easy," Lucy said, "but it's home. And the people here, most are good folks, quick to help." They reached Lucy's gate before she knew it. The porch light glowed softly, and she spotted her father's silhouette in the window, no doubt glancing out to see if she'd arrived safely. Sam stopped just short of the fence, eyeing the modest house with an unreadable expression. Lucy sensed he might be grappling with memories or guilt, perhaps seeing a life he'd never experienced or once had and lost. "Well," Lucy began quietly, "thank you for walking me. This is me." Sam nodded. "Thanks for the apple and conversation." He cleared his throat. "I'll see you around." Lucy felt an urge to invite him in. He looked so tired, the lines on his face deeper in the porch's glow, but she sensed he wasn't ready, so she simply smiled. "All right, take care, Sam. If you do need anything, you have my address." He gave a final nod, turned, and walked away into the night. Lucy stayed there by the gate, watching his figure diminish down the quiet street, a strange mix of sadness and hope swirling in her chest. Her father opened the door, stepping out to greet her. "You okay?" Mr. Williams asked, noticing her pensive expression. Lucy forced a smile. "Yes, Dad, just thinking." She slipped inside. As she prepared for bed that night, she replayed Sam's hesitant smiles, his hidden torment, the way he'd held that small embroidered cloth like a lifeline. She could only pray that somewhere, somehow, he found peace in this moment of stillness. And maybe, just maybe, he would let her and her family truly help before whatever storm was brewing on the horizon caught up to him. Morning brought a soft drizzle that pattered against the windows of Lucy's modest bedroom. She woke to the gray light of dawn filtering through thin curtains, the sky outside looking washed out and damp. The muted sound of rain made everything feel slower, quieter, a lull that matched her pensive mood. As Lucy dressed for the day, she couldn't shake the memory of walking home with Sam beneath the stars. Something about his presence lingered in her heart. She wandered into the kitchen to find Mr. Williams rinsing dishes already dressed for the shop. A plate of buttered toast and scrambled eggs awaited her on the counter. Caleb was nowhere in sight, likely still asleep since it was Saturday. Weekends meant no school, so the house usually stayed calm until Lucy and her father returned from the shop. Today, though, Lucy suspected the drizzle might keep business light. "Morning," Lucy murmured, giving her father a gentle hug. He smiled, patting her shoulder. "Morning, dear. Did you sleep okay?" Lucy shrugged, feeling the weight of unspoken thoughts in her chest. "Yes and no. I'm fine, just a lot on my mind." Her father raised an eyebrow but didn't press. He handed her a mug of hot tea. "Sip this. You'll feel better." The aroma of chamomile and honey soothed her. Lucy took a few slow sips, letting the warmth spread through her. Outside, the rain intensified momentarily, drumming on the roof. She wondered if Sam had found shelter the night before, or if he'd stayed out there under the drizzle with nowhere to go. "Dad," she said suddenly, "do you think maybe we could fix up the guest room? Not that it's fancy, but it has a bed and a small dresser. If Sam needs a place—" Mr. Williams gave her a measured look. "I've been thinking the same. That old sewing room used to double as a guest room. It's cluttered with fabric now, but we can make space." Lucy felt relief bloom in her chest. "Really? You're okay with that?" He set aside the dish rag. "Lucy, you've got a good instinct about people. If you think Sam is worthy of trust, that's enough for me. I just hope he's willing to accept it. Can't force anyone to accept kindness." A flicker of gratitude lit in Lucy's eyes. She finished her tea, then grabbed her coat. "I'll hurry over to the shop with you, and later we can see about clearing that room," she said, determination sparking inside her. Mr. Williams agreed, and they left a note for Caleb, who typically slept in on weekends. Despite the drizzle, father and daughter ventured out onto the wet sidewalks. The town looked half asleep with only a few cars rolling by. Shop windows bore open signs, but inside, lights were dim, indicating owners had yet to see their first customers. Arriving at Williams & Son Alterations, Lucy switched on the interior lights. The overhead glow revealed the comforting chaos of unfinished dresses, half-altered suits, and boxes of zippers and buttons. Her father set to work on a pile of shirts that needed new collars, while Lucy turned her attention to the bride's dress from the day before. She had a final lace detail to secure. Time slid by quietly. Rainwater trickled down the window panes, and each new garment Lucy handled became a meditative task that kept her mind from wandering too much. Now and then, a stray thought of Sam would surface, imagining him drifting the streets or perhaps sheltering in a doorway somewhere. She prayed he'd come by again, if only to stay dry. Around mid-morning, a customer arrived, a young woman needing a last-minute hem for a gala dress. Lucy measured and pinned, promising it would be ready by early afternoon. The woman left, thanking them for working so quickly. Mr. Williams soon busied himself with the older sewing machine, repairing a vintage tuxedo belonging to one of their longtime clients. Half an hour later, the door jingled again. Lucy looked up expectantly, her heart leaping. But instead of Sam, in walked Mrs. Ruiz, the fruit vendor who'd gifted Lucy apples the previous day. She wore a bright floral raincoat and carried a basket covered with a cloth. "Good morning, Lucy," Mrs. Ruiz said cheerily. "I just finished baking some empanadas. Thought I'd bring you and your father a few." Lucy's eyes lit up. "That's so sweet of you. Thank you." She accepted the basket with gratitude. Warmth spread from the woven container, and a mouth-watering aroma wafted out. She set it on the counter, rummaging in a drawer for a small plastic container so Mrs. Ruiz could carry something back. Mrs. Ruiz shrugged. "It's no trouble. This town's always been good to me. I like to give back when I can." Her gaze drifted across the shop, taking in the racks of half-finished garments. "Business looks steady?" "It is," Mr. Williams replied, stepping over to greet her. "We can't complain. Lucy's been a lifesaver, works miracles on these dresses." Mrs. Ruiz chuckled. "I'm sure she does. Well, I won't keep you. If you need more produce for lunches, just let me know." She ambled out, leaving a wave of warmth behind her. Lucy's father turned to her with a smile. "Try one of the empanadas before they cool." Lucy lifted the cloth, revealing golden, flaky pastries stuffed with what smelled like chicken, vegetables, and fragrant herbs. She broke one in half, steam rising from the savory filling. The taste was delicious, hearty, and comforting. For a moment, Lucy wished Sam could share in this little delight, especially on a chilly, rain-soaked day. She ate silently, lost in thought, until her father tapped her shoulder. "We'll finish up these orders, then slip home for lunch," he suggested. "Maybe we can start cleaning that guest room earlier than planned." Lucy nodded, focusing back on her tasks with renewed purpose. Deep down, she harbored hope that Sam might walk through the door at any moment, drawn by the warmth and welcome the shop offered. But as noon approached, no such luck. They closed early, just after 1 p.m., the drizzle still tapping on the pavement. With the shop locked up, Lucy and her father walked home beneath a shared umbrella. A hush lingered in the streets, weekend lull plus bad weather, giving the town a dreamy, peaceful quality. Though Lucy missed the energy of a bustling Saturday crowd, she also appreciated how the rain felt cleansing, as though it might wash away unspoken sorrows. Arriving home, they found Caleb rummaging the refrigerator, searching for leftover pizza. He was dressed in comfy sweats, hair uncombed, a typical Saturday look. As Lucy and her father shrugged off their coats, Mr. Williams explained they'd be tidying the old sewing room. Caleb rolled his eyes at the mention of chores but nodded. "Sure, I'll help, I guess," he mumbled, mouth half full of pizza. Lucy led the way down the hallway to a door that rarely got opened. Her mother's old sewing room, which after her passing had become a sort of storage space. Inside, the faint smell of dust and old fabric lingered. Bolts of cloth, boxes of patterns, and spare sewing tools cluttered every surface. An old twin bed frame stood in a corner, disassembled and propped against the wall. "Let's see." Mr. Williams rubbed his chin, surveying the mess. "We'll move these boxes to the garage, vacuum the floor, and set up the bed. We can find a new mattress if needed." Lucy's heart squeezed at the sight of her mother's old sewing machine still perched on a small table. She and her mother had spent hours in this very room, her mother teaching her the basics of hemming, trimming, and pattern cutting. Stepping back in felt like stepping into a memory, but the sense of purpose overshadowed the sadness. She wanted to create a cozy, inviting space if Sam ever decided to come. They spent the next hour clearing and reorganizing. Caleb grumbled occasionally, but he followed instructions, lugging boxes to the garage. Lucy dusted surfaces, carefully folding leftover fabric and placing it in labeled bins. Mr. Williams reassembled the bed frame, finding an old but sturdy mattress they'd once used for visiting relatives. It wasn't top of the line, but it would do. By mid-afternoon, the transformation was evident. Sunlight from a small window illuminated the cleared floor, revealing worn but polished floorboards. The bed stood neatly in one corner, draped with fresh sheets and a cozy quilt Lucy found in the linen closet. She placed a small lamp on the side table, testing its soft glow. Atop a dresser, she added a tiny vase of dried flowers, just a subtle touch of warmth. They stepped back, surveying their handiwork. Caleb nodded approvingly. "Actually looks kind of nice," he admitted. "But, are we sure this Sam guy is cool?" Lucy shot him a gentle smile. "He's fine, Caleb. He's had a rough time. We just want to help if he'll let us." Her younger brother shrugged, but Lucy could tell he trusted her judgment. Mr. Williams clapped his hands together. "I think that does it for now. Good work, team." Exhausted but satisfied, they trooped into the living room. The rain outside had tapered to a light mist, making the windows foggy. Lucy sank onto the couch, thinking of Sam and wondering if she'd see him later that day, or if he'd vanish for days again. Her father disappeared into the kitchen, emerging minutes later with steaming mugs of cocoa for all three of them. "Figured we earned this," he said, handing Lucy a mug. She breathed in the sweet aroma, letting the warmth steady her thoughts. Eventually, Caleb slunk away to play video games, leaving Lucy and her father in comfortable silence. The father-daughter pair sipped their cocoa, hearts attuned to the quiet hush of the house. Lucy considered texting the phone number Sam had once implied he had, if only to check on him, but she realized she didn't have his number. She'd only given him hers. Mr. Williams seemed to read her thoughts. "We can't rush him," he said gently. "You've shown him kindness, given him a safe place to land if he chooses. Sometimes that's all we can do." Lucy nodded, staring at the faint swirl of cocoa in her mug. She pictured Sam's haunted eyes, recalling how he'd seemed so weary under the porch light the previous evening. If nothing else, she hoped he'd found shelter from the rain. A knock at the door startled them. Lucy's heart skipped. Could it be Sam? But when her father opened the front door, in stepped their neighbor, Ms. Monroe, holding a small container of cookies. She greeted them with a smile, explaining she'd baked too many and thought they might like some. The momentary rush of hope that it was Sam left Lucy's spirits dipping a notch, though she graciously thanked Ms. Monroe all the same. After the neighbor left, Lucy meandered to her bedroom, pausing by the hallway window that overlooked the street. Drops of rain clung to the glass, and the road outside was empty save for a stray dog sniffing around a lamp-post. A pang of worry touched Lucy's chest. Where was Sam? Was he wandering aimlessly in another part of town, or had he hopped a bus to the next city? She remembered the suitcase of burdens he must be carrying, responsibilities, secrets, or regrets. The details were unknown to her, but the weight was palpable every time he spoke. She whispered a silent hope that he'd realize the guest room was ready, that if he needed a place, no questions asked, he could come. Maybe her father was right. Patience and open doors were the best she could offer. Love can't be forced, she thought, recalling her mother's teachings. It can only be given freely. Darkness began to gather outside. Lucy's stomach growled, reminding her it was nearly dinner. She joined her father and brother in the kitchen, where a simple meal of chicken stew and leftover empanadas from Mrs. Ruiz's basket awaited. As they ate, conversation flowed easily. Caleb describing a new video game, Mr. Williams joking about a particularly stubborn zipper he'd fixed. Lucy chimed in now and then, but her mind kept drifting to the empty guest room down the hall. When the meal ended, Lucy offered to wash dishes. Standing at the sink, hot water running over her hands, she gazed through the window onto the dimly lit street. The rain had stopped, leaving a sheen on the pavement. Overhead, the first stars emerged from behind retreating clouds. She wondered if Sam might show up at the front door, half apologetic for intruding, or if she'd find him waiting outside her father's shop in the morning. The not knowing gnawed at her heart. Yet as she cleaned the last plate and set it to dry, Lucy reminded herself that hope thrives in small gestures. The guest room was ready, a sanctuary of sorts for Sam if he chose to accept it. Her family was on board, and Lucy's own faith in his eventual trust gave her patience. She turned off the tap, drying her hands on a dish towel. Peeking into the hallway, she caught a glimpse of the newly made bed behind the open door of the spare room. For an instant, she imagined Sam sleeping there, free from the damp chill of the streets, discovering that kindness didn't come with a catch. A shy smile touched her lips. Whether tonight or days from now, she held on to the hope that he would come, giving her a chance to show him that "you are not alone" wasn't just a phrase in a card, it was a promise. Night draped the neighborhood in quiet shadows. Lucy sat on her bed scrolling aimlessly through a social media feed on her phone. She noticed friends posting pictures from Easter weekend, family gatherings, pastel dresses, big dinners, and felt a pang. Her own holiday had been filled with meaning, but not in the usual ways. Thoughts of Sam hovered at the edges of her mind like a gentle echo. After a while, her eyelids grew heavy. Tomorrow was Sunday, traditionally a slower day at the shop unless urgent orders popped up. Perhaps she could rest and read a little, help her father with laundry, maybe even bake something for Sam in case he appeared. That idea made her heart lift. Baking had always given her comfort, a practical way to show caring. She could make a fresh loaf of sweet bread, the same kind she'd placed in that Easter basket. Finally, Lucy switched off her phone, slid under the covers, and closed her eyes. She drifted into a dream where she stood at the door of their spare room, beckoning Sam inside. But a sudden knock startled her awake. It took her a moment to realize it was no dream. Someone was actually at their front door, rapping lightly but urgently. She sat up, heart pounding, glancing at the clock. 11:17 p.m. She heard her father's muffled footsteps in the hallway, then the click of the front door opening. A moment later, Mr. Williams called her name. Lucy hastily pulled on a sweater and padded into the living room. There, in the faint glow of a single lamp, stood Sam, soaked from a fresh drizzle, hair plastered to his forehead, and expression etched with desperation. "Sam?" Lucy breathed, moving closer. "What happened?" He swallowed, jaw tight. "I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go. People were chasing—" He cut himself off, as though unsure how much to reveal. "I just needed somewhere safe." Mr. Williams gave Sam a reassuring nod. "You're fine, son. You can stay here. Lucy's told me everything. Let's get you dried off." Sam's posture sagged, relief warring with shame. "Thank you. I don't want to trouble you." "It's no trouble," Mr. Williams replied. His gaze flicked to Lucy, silently signaling her to help. "Lucy, maybe grab a towel and those spare clothes from Caleb's closet?" Lucy hurried to fetch a thick towel from the bathroom and an old flannel shirt and sweatpants from Caleb's stash, hoping they might fit well enough. When she returned, her father had already offered Sam a seat at the small kitchen table. Sam's coat dripped onto the floor, forming a small puddle, which Lucy quickly wiped up with another towel. "Thank you," Sam mumbled, eyes downcast. He appeared rattled, tense, like a hunted animal. Lucy noticed his hands trembling, whether from cold or fear she couldn't tell. She set the clothes on the table and handed him the larger towel. He stood, moving to a corner for a shred of privacy, and dried off as best he could, then slipped into the borrowed clothes. The shirt and pants were a bit loose but far drier than his own attire. Mr. Williams placed a mug of steaming tea before Sam, who stared at it blankly for a moment before taking a tentative sip. Lucy and her father exchanged concerned glances, sensing how fragile Sam seemed tonight. After a pause, Mr. Williams broke the silence. "You're welcome to stay in our spare room, Sam. Lucy fixed it up just this afternoon. Well, we all did. It's yours if you need it." Lucy noticed Sam's quick inhale as though overwhelmed by such open generosity. I can pay," he started, fumbling in his coat for his wallet. But then he remembered that the wallet in his coat pocket held only a few bills. He'd left most of his resources behind when he walked away from his other life. "Or at least help around the house? I don't expect a free ride." Mr. Williams shook his head. "Help if you like, but no payment necessary. Consider it a friend's offer." Sam's face flickered with conflicted relief. Lucy wondered if he was unaccustomed to accepting any kindness without a transaction. She reached out to gently clasp his hand. "We just want you safe." He squeezed her hand back briefly, then let go. "Thanks," he whispered, unable to muster more words. His shoulders slumped as though a crushing weight had momentarily lifted. They finished the tea, tension slowly ebbing from the room. Mr. Williams excused himself to rummage for extra blankets, and Lucy led Sam down the short hallway to the newly readied spare room. She flicked on a small lamp, revealing a simple but inviting space: the twin bed with fresh sheets, a small dresser, and the side table with the old lamp. Sam hovered in the doorway, gaze soaking in every detail. "It's not fancy," Lucy murmured, fiddling nervously with the edge of her sweater sleeve. "But it's dry and clean, and warm." His eyes met hers, gratitude shining through his lingering fear. "It's more than enough." Lucy pointed to a closet. "There are towels in there, and the bathroom's just across the hall." She took a breath. "We can talk in the morning if you want. You look like you need rest." Sam nodded. "I do. But, Lucy, Mr. Williams, thank you again." He seemed ready to say more, but words failed him. Instead, he stepped into the room, carefully setting his damp coat on a nearby chair. Lucy flicked a final glance at him, offering a reassuring smile, then gently closed the door to give him privacy. In the hallway, her father waited with an extra quilt. "Here," he whispered, handing it to Lucy. She eased the door open a crack and placed the quilt on a chair, noticing that Sam was already seated on the bed, head bowed, fingers pressed to his temples as if fighting off a headache. Lucy left quietly, letting him have his space. She and Mr. Williams retreated to the living room, exchanging relieved looks. "He seemed terrified," Lucy said softly, voice trembling with concern. "Said someone was chasing him?" Mr. Williams frowned. "Could be some trouble he's caught up in, maybe debt collectors or something else. It's his story to tell if he's ready. For now, let's just make sure he feels safe." Lucy nodded. "I'm worried about him." Her father placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "He came to us, Lucy. That's a step. Let him rest. Tomorrow's another day." He patted her arm. "Now get some sleep. We'll see what morning brings." Calming her racing thoughts proved difficult. Lucy peered once more down the hallway, the door to Sam's room closed. The faint light from under the door told her he hadn't switched off the lamp yet. She prayed he'd find some peace tonight, free from whatever danger lurked outside. She returned to her own room, sliding back under her covers. The adrenaline of Sam's sudden arrival still coursed in her veins. Stray images flashed in her mind. Sam drenched, breathing heavily, eyes wide. The world outside might be chaotic, but at least here, for one night, he was sheltered. After some time, Lucy finally dozed off, lulled by the knowledge that Sam lay under the same roof, close enough to protect if anything went wrong. In her half-dream, she saw him sleeping safely, a flicker of hope lighting his face. Sunlight streamed through the curtains when Lucy next opened her eyes. She jolted up, blinking at the clock. 7:50 a.m. She swung her legs out of bed and hurried into the hallway, heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and concern. The door to the spare room was still closed. She tiptoed closer, raising a hand to knock. Then she paused, not wanting to wake Sam if he was finally getting proper rest. She headed to the kitchen. Mr. Williams was already seated at the table, sipping coffee and reading the local newspaper. Caleb, for once, was up too, munching on cereal. Both turned to Lucy as she entered, tension visible in their eyes. "How's our guest?" asked Mr. Williams. Lucy shrugged, keeping her voice low. "Doors closed. Might still be sleeping." She started preparing coffee, glancing at the fridge, debating what to make for breakfast. "Eggs and toast, maybe? We could do bacon, too. Something filling." Her father nodded. "Good idea." They moved around quietly, Lucy whipping eggs into a bowl while Mr. Williams warmed a pan. A comforting aroma soon spread through the kitchen. Caleb stayed uncharacteristically silent, occasionally peering toward the hallway with curiosity. Despite his initial wariness, Lucy sensed her little brother was concerned now that Sam was here under their roof. At last, soft footsteps sounded down the hallway. Sam appeared in the doorway, hair slightly disheveled, wearing the borrowed flannel shirt and sweatpants. He looked better rested, but still guarded. Lucy offered him a gentle smile, nodding toward a seat at the table. "Good morning," she said, trying to keep her tone light. "Hope you slept okay?" Sam cleared his throat, hovering at the threshold. "Yeah, thank you. Really." "Sit," Mr. Williams urged. "We're about to have breakfast. You must be hungry." Slowly, Sam sank into a chair, gaze flicking between Lucy, her father, and Caleb. The boy offered a small wave. Sam managed a polite nod in return. Lucy served scrambled eggs, toast, and bacon onto plates, placing one before Sam. He eyed it with a mixture of gratitude and hesitation. "Thank you," he repeated, as though that phrase was all he could offer. Lucy and her father took seats, letting Caleb say a quick grace, a family habit before meals. Then they all began to eat. The clink of forks on plates and the smell of hot coffee created a cozy morning ambiance. Sam took small bites at first, as if afraid he might be judged or that the food would be snatched away. Gradually, he relaxed, appetite piqued by the fresh meal. After a few moments of quiet eating, Mr. Williams spoke gently. "You mentioned someone was chasing you last night. Are you in any trouble, Sam?" A shadow crossed Sam's face. He paused, setting down his fork. Lucy tensed, concerned that pressing might make him shut down. But Sam let out a slow breath. "Trouble is complicated. There are people who want me to go back somewhere. I left. They didn't like that." Caleb perked up. "Why would they chase you for leaving?" "Caleb," Lucy said softly, sending him a discreet look to let Sam share as much or as little as he wanted. But Sam gave a faint shrug, lips pursed. "It's about money and business deals. They think I owe them my time. I don't want any part of it. I just needed space." Mr. Williams nodded thoughtfully, not pushing further. Lucy recognized that Sam's confession lined up with her hunch that he wasn't just another person down on luck. There was something bigger lurking in his past. She decided to steer the conversation to calmer ground. "Would you like to stay here a while?" she asked. "No pressure, but if you need a day or two, longer even, you're welcome." Sam's eyes darted to Mr. Williams, who nodded. "She's right," her father said. "We don't have much, but our door is open." Emotion flickered across Sam's face. He took a swallow of coffee. "I don't know how to repay you." Lucy offered a soft smile. "Friendship doesn't require repayment," she said simply. "If you want to help around the house or at my father's shop, you're free to do so. But it's not a condition." He lowered his gaze, fighting off tears, Lucy suspected. When he finally looked up, a faint glimmer of relief shone in his eyes. "I'll stay, if that's all right, at least until I figure out my next step." "Of course," Mr. Williams answered, rising to refill Sam's coffee. "No deadlines here." They all resumed eating in a quieter mood, the tension replaced by the beginnings of mutual trust. Lucy felt the heaviness in her chest ease, grateful that Sam had chosen to stay. Caleb passed him the jam jar shyly, which Sam accepted with a grateful nod. Lucy suppressed a smile. Her little brother had a good heart beneath his teasing exterior. Soon enough, plates emptied. Mr. Williams stood, offering Sam a chance to clean up or rest more. Lucy volunteered to show him around the small property if he was up for it. Sam hesitated, then agreed, curiosity warming his features. She guided him through the modest layout, living room, kitchen, the back garden. Raindrops still clung to the leaves of potted herbs, and the air smelled of damp earth. Outside, Sam paused by a tiny flower bed, fingers brushing across the petals of bright marigolds. "You grew these?" he asked quietly. Lucy nodded. "My mom taught me about gardening before she passed. I try to keep them alive. They bring color, don't you think?" Sam looked at the flowers, rain-soaked but resilient. "Yeah," he murmured, voice husky. "Color. That's what a place like this can mean for someone." Lucy's heart warmed. She sensed how deeply Sam's wounds might run, and how everything he saw here, familial warmth, simple generosity, contrasted with whatever he'd fled. Without pressing further, she gently said, "Whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here." He cast her a sidelong glance, a hint of a sad smile on his lips. "I know. Thank you." They stood there a moment longer, listening to the drip of water from the roof's edge. This was only the beginning. Lucy knew healing wouldn't happen overnight, but at least Sam had a roof, a meal, and people who cared. That was more than she could have hoped for just days ago. And for the first time, Lucy truly believed he might let them in enough to find the peace he so desperately needed. The rest of Sunday unfolded at a gentle pace. Outside, faint clouds lingered, and a light wind rustled the leaves in Lucy's modest garden. Within the house, the quiet presence of a new guest set a tender hush over everything. After their walk through the backyard, Lucy led Sam back indoors, where her father busied himself with simple chores, folding laundry, tidying the living room, and Caleb alternated between playing video games and peeking into the kitchen to see what Lucy might be up to. Feeling a wave of domestic energy, Lucy decided to bake. It was something she turned to when she sensed unspoken tension in the air, a kneading of dough, the precise measuring of flour, all of it a meditative way to create comfort. This time she chose sweet bread again, the same kind she'd given Sam on Easter Sunday, hoping to offer him a taste of familiarity. She found him in the living room, standing at the small bookshelf, skimming over the collection of novels and old encyclopedias her father kept. At the sound of her approach, Sam turned, still wearing the flannel shirt and sweatpants they'd given him the night before. She couldn't help noticing how his shoulders looked less tense than usual. "Hey," Lucy said softly. "I'm going to bake some bread. Want to help or just watch?" A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips. "I can help, if you don't mind. Might distract me." "Of course." He followed her into the kitchen. The counters gleamed under bright overhead lights, and the scent of coffee from breakfast lingered. Lucy laid out the ingredients, flour, yeast, sugar, salt, and placed a large mixing bowl on the counter. She explained the steps, though she suspected Sam might not have baked often. He listened attentively, rolling up his sleeves. "You sure about trusting me with this?" he joked, a hint of nervousness in his tone. Lucy laughed gently. "Positive. If it flops, we'll blame it on me." They began mixing and kneading, the process fostering a calm hush between them. Sam's initial awkwardness faded as he pressed dough under his palms. Lucy guided him whenever he paused, showing him how the dough should feel, soft but slightly elastic. The simple act of doing something with his hands seemed to ground him. "So," Lucy ventured, trying to keep her voice casual, "do you like cooking? Or is it not your thing?" Sam shrugged, focusing on the dough. "Never had much time for it, but I can see how it might be relaxing." "It is," Lucy agreed. "There's a rhythm to it, and in the end you get something warm and fresh to share." He glanced her way, a fleeting smile crossing his features. "Sharing," he repeated quietly. "That's a new concept for me." The words pricked Lucy's heart. She sensed how lonely Sam's life must have been, even if he'd once had money or status. Realizing she might be skirting close to sensitive ground, she simply nodded and kept kneading. The two of them worked in companionable silence, letting the soothing nature of baking speak for them. Eventually, they set the dough aside to rise under a damp cloth. Lucy wiped flour from her hands, noticing how Sam stared at the bowl as though wondering if the dough would truly transform. She offered him a kitchen towel for his hands, which he accepted, dabbing them carefully. "You'll see," Lucy said, leaning against the counter. "In an hour or so, that dough will double in size. It's like magic." Sam looked down at his flour-dusted fingers. "Strange how these little things can feel so grounding." "Yeah," she murmured, recalling how an ordinary chore could be an anchor when the world felt unsteady. "I used to do this when I was sad about losing my mom. It always made me feel closer to her in a way." He glanced up, concern etched in his eyes. "I'm sorry. About your mother." Lucy met his gaze with a gentle smile. "Thank you. It's been a few years now. She was a beautiful soul, always teaching me small ways to show love." A beat of silence passed. Sam looked as though he wanted to say something else, maybe about his own past, but he remained quiet. Lucy didn't press him. She sensed trust was built in layers, one shared moment at a time. And right now, he was here, safe, hands still dusted with flour, learning that kindness demanded nothing in return. Together they cleaned the countertop, placing utensils and ingredients back in their spots. Outside, a bird chirped on the windowsill, and a gentle breeze fluttered the curtains. Caleb poked his head around the corner, saw them busy in the kitchen, and vanished again, probably returning to his game. Lucy smiled, imagining he'd teased Sam about domestic life if he were older. But for now, everyone let Sam settle in quietly. An hour later, Lucy and Sam returned to find the dough puffed up under the cloth, just as promised. Sam's eyes widened slightly as though seeing a small miracle. Lucy giggled at his reaction and began shaping the dough into braided loaves. She guided Sam's fingers to weave the strands, reminding him to keep the pressure gentle. When the shaped loaves lay on the baking sheet, Lucy brushed them with a bit of egg wash. Then they waited. Sam hovered by the oven door, peering through the glass as if expecting the loaves to come to life in seconds. Lucy nudged him, offering a chair at the kitchen table. "Patience," she teased gently. "This part's easier if you sit and talk, less nerve-wracking than staring." He allowed a quiet chuckle and sat, folding his arms over the table. Lucy joined him. The conversation drifted to small topics: how the local town fairs drew big crowds every summer, how Lucy's father once sewed an entire set of costumes for the school theater, and how Caleb had once gotten lost in the crowd at the carnival only to be found near the cotton candy stand. Sam listened, occasionally offering a comment or two. Lucy sensed he savored hearing about a world so different from what he was used to. She offered small glimpses into her daily routines, opening the shop, dealing with frantic brides, or neighborly folks like Mrs. Ruiz. He nodded, eyes shining with quiet wonder, as though finding solace in the notion of normal life. After about 20 minutes, the kitchen began to fill with the warm, yeasty aroma of bread. Sam's gaze flicked again to the oven door, and Lucy smiled. "Smells good, doesn't it?" He inhaled deeply. "Makes a place feel like home," he admitted softly. Lucy pressed her lips together. She was about to respond when Mr. Williams stuck his head into the kitchen. "Something smells delicious in here. Bread about done?" "Just about," Lucy said, rising to check. The loaves had turned golden brown on top. She flipped the oven light on to inspect them more closely, then pulled them out with care. The sight of perfectly braided sweet bread made her grin. Sam stood as well, drawn by the aroma. "That looks amazing," he said, openly impressed. "Thanks to you," Lucy quipped, brushing the hot loaf with a bit of butter to give it a shine. "Your kneading helped." A faint blush colored his cheeks. Mr. Williams gestured for them to bring the bread into the living room, where a small coffee table could hold a cutting board. Lucy complied, setting the loaf down, and Sam retrieved a bread knife from the kitchen. Soon the three of them, joined by a curious Caleb, were slicing into the fresh bread, each piece steaming and sweet. "Oh, wow!" Caleb exclaimed through a mouthful. "This is so good. Better than store-bought for sure." Sam flashed a modest smile, savoring his slice more slowly, as though savoring not just the taste but the experience. Warm food, shared laughter, a safe home. Lucy caught the emotion glimmering in his eyes. It reminded her of the first time she saw him hold the Easter basket, the hesitation mingling with gratitude. They devoured a good portion of one loaf, leaving the other on the counter for later. Afterward, Mr. Williams and Caleb drifted back to their own Sunday tasks. Lucy and Sam lingered in the living room, the sunlight soft through lace curtains. The hush felt companionable. She offered Sam another mug of tea, which he accepted. At length, he broke the silence. "You and your family, you do so much for others, don't you?" Lucy shrugged, sipping her own tea. "We try. The town taught us that. My grandparents used to say, 'We rise by lifting others.' It's how things work around here. Someone helps you, you help someone else, and so on." He studied her, an uncertain glimmer behind his gaze. "My world was never like that." He spoke the words quietly, as if confessing a great secret. Lucy leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "Maybe it can be. Or maybe you can find a different place, a different path, if that's what you truly want." Sam's lips parted in a small, humorless laugh. "I don't know what I want anymore, except not to be forced back into something that suffocates me." It's your choice, Lucy said gently. No one else's. She hesitated, heart pounding with empathy. But you don't have to decide everything now. You can stay here, take a breather. We're not going anywhere. He bowed his head, as though her kindness was both a balm and a source of guilt. I owe you so much. Lucy reached out and lightly touched his arm. You don't owe us anything, but if it helps, you could come with me and my dad to the shop tomorrow. Maybe see what we do, how we help folks with their clothing needs. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work, and maybe you'll find it interesting. He seemed caught off guard by the invitation. I don't know a thing about tailoring. She smiled. That's okay. You can just observe or help organize. Dad always needs an extra hand with inventory. Sam swallowed. All right, I guess that's better than sitting around feeling useless. It's decided then, Lucy said, offering him an encouraging look. We leave in the morning around 8. We'll introduce you to some of the neighbors. Let them see you're a friend. Another wave of conflicting emotion crossed his face. Lucy couldn't help thinking how extraordinary it was that a man like Sam, someone clearly holding secrets and connections beyond their small town, could be sitting here with them, learning how to shape bread and share daily life. Whatever awaited him in the shadows, for now, he was safe. They finished their tea in an easy silence. Outside, the sun dipped behind a cloud, casting gentle shadows across the living room walls. Lucy breathed in the warmth of the moment, aware that each day with Sam carried both a risk and a blessing. But if there was one thing she'd learned, it was that love, freely given, had the power to shape even the most uncertain futures. Monday morning dawned with a hint of sunshine breaking through the previous day's gray. Lucy woke early, her mind already jumping ahead to the tasks at the shop. Before she could fully dress, she heard soft noises in the hallway, footsteps and the creak of a floorboard. A flicker of hope crossed her. Maybe Sam was awake, preparing himself for the day of simple work she'd suggested. Stepping out of her room, Lucy found Caleb trudging to the bathroom, still half asleep. Morning, he mumbled. She smiled at his bedhead, but her eyes quickly checked the spare room door. It stood slightly ajar, the lamp inside turned off. She tapped lightly, pushing the door wider. Sam was up, indeed, perched on the edge of the made bed. He wore the same borrowed flannel shirt, though Lucy noticed he'd neatly folded his damp coat over the back of a chair. At her entrance, he looked up, offering a slight nod. Morning, she said softly. How'd you sleep? He shrugged, gaze dropping to the floor. Better than I have in a while, actually. That's good. Lucy came closer, noticing he was fiddling with his hands. Nervous, perhaps. I'm making coffee in a minute. We'll head to the shop around 8. Dad's finishing a jacket for a client. Sam rose slowly, stretching out his shoulders. Thanks. I'll be ready. He hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his eyes. I wanted to say thanks again for letting me stay. I still feel like I'm imposing. Lucy laid a gentle hand on his arm. You're not. My dad is happy you're here too. He nodded, though she sensed an underlying tension. Maybe the idea of meeting more people in town unnerved him. Lucy decided not to push, but merely smiled, gave him space, and headed to the kitchen. Mr. Williams was already there, sipping coffee and checking the day's to-do list. Morning, Lucy, he said when she entered. Everything set for your friend to come along? She nodded, grabbing a clean mug from the cupboard. He's up. Might need a spare shirt. Caleb's flannel is all he's got right now. She glanced at Caleb, who had just slumped into a kitchen chair, hair still messy, rummaging a spoon through his cereal. I can see what might fit him, her father said, flipping a page in the little notepad where he wrote customer deadlines. We'll work it out. Lucy poured 2 cups of coffee, one for herself, one for Sam, and arranged them on the small table. Moments later, Sam emerged, shoulders still slightly hunched as if bracing for a flood of questions. But Mr. Williams merely greeted him with a warm smile. "Help yourself to coffee," her father said. "Breakfast is just toast and eggs if you're hungry." Sam glanced at the simple spread, bread, jam, and scrambled eggs in a pan on the stove. "Thank you." He moved quietly, assembling a slice of toast and some eggs. Caleb eyed him curiously but kept silent. As they ate, Lucy and her father discussed which orders needed priority at the shop. Caleb chimed in with a complaint about math homework, something Lucy promised to help with that evening. All the while, Sam ate with care, as though each bite felt significant in this new, humble household routine. At 7:45, Lucy brushed her hair into a ponytail and grabbed the keys to the tailoring shop. Mr. Williams offered Sam a spare shirt he'd found, plain navy blue, one size too big but serviceable. Sam accepted it with a grateful nod, changing in the spare room before they headed out. Lucy reminded Caleb to lock up if he left for school late, which he grumbled about but promised to do. The trio stepped outside into the mild morning. A few neighbors were out watering gardens or loading kids into cars for school. The air smelled faintly of fresh grass, a welcome sign that the rain had passed. Lucy led the way down the sidewalk, greeting anyone who waved. As they turned onto the busier street, Sam slowed, scanning his surroundings warily. "You okay?" Lucy asked under her breath. "We can duck into a side alley if you don't want people seeing you." He shook his head, forcing a steadier posture. "No, it's fine. I just keep expecting someone to ambush me." Mr. Williams overheard and nodded sympathetically. "We'll keep an eye out, son. If someone bothers you, we'll handle it. But this town's mostly peaceful." Sam managed a faint smile, as if the idea of this fatherly figure handling anything was foreign yet comforting. They soon arrived at Williams & Son Alterations. Lucy opened the door, flipping on the lights to reveal the familiar interior: racks of dresses, piles of pinned garments, sewing machines lined up against the wall. The space felt like home to her. She hoped Sam might feel the same energy, however unfamiliar. "This is it," Lucy said with a small flourish. "Our domain." Sam glanced around, eyes snagging on a half-finished wedding gown displayed near a full-length mirror. He stepped forward, tentatively brushing the fabric. "You create all this?" he asked, voice quiet. Lucy blushed. "Some of it. My dad does, too. And we do a lot of alterations, shortening hems, adjusting waistlines, repairs." Mr. Williams stepped behind the counter, flipping through a logbook. "We have a few customers stopping by this morning, nothing too hectic. Sam, if you're comfortable, you can observe or help with small tasks, like sorting buttons or stacking fabrics." Sam turned, scanning the shelves of folded cloth and jars of zippers and buttons. "I'll do what I can," he murmured, as though uncertain any skill he possessed would apply here. Lucy guided him to the back storage area where they kept extra supplies. She demonstrated how they sorted buttons by size and color, a seemingly mundane task, but crucial for easy access during rush projects. Sam took it seriously, carefully examining each button before dropping it into its assigned bin. Lucy sensed the calm it provided him, tangible, repetitive work to steady his mind. The morning rolled on. A few customers trickled in, one picking up a tailored suit, another dropping off a bridesmaid dress for emergency alterations. Lucy introduced Sam simply as a friend, helping out at the shop, and most customers gave a polite smile and moved on, not prying. The small talk felt safe, ordinary. Lucy kept an eye on Sam, noticing how his shoulders relaxed bit by bit each time a customer departed without recognizing him or harassing him. By late morning, Mr. Williams had Sam assist him in measuring fabric for a new order. Lucy watched from her sewing station, smiling softly as Sam tried to follow the tape measure's markings. Her father patiently explained each step, never judging a mistake, simply showing Sam how to hold the tape taut, how to read the numbers along the edge. Sam didn't talk much, but Lucy caught glimpses of a subdued satisfaction in his expression. Around noon, she suggested they take a quick lunch break. Usually, Lucy would grab sandwiches from a nearby deli, or she and her father would split leftovers. With Sam around, she decided to be a little more deliberate, rummaging in a small fridge they kept for staff. She pulled out bread, cheese, lettuce, and tomatoes. In a few minutes, she assembled 3 simple sandwiches, adding a side of fresh fruit. She called Mr. Williams and Sam to a little side table near the front window. While they ate, they chatted more easily. The hum of the sewing machines paused. Lucy teased her father about a memory from when she was a kid, how he once sewed a dress for her last-minute crooked seams and all, because her mother was away caring for a sick relative. Mr. Williams feigned offense at her teasing, but Sam chuckled quietly, eyes lighting with amusement at the mental image. After lunch, they got back to work. More customers arrived, some requesting urgent fixes. Lucy soon lost herself in the swirl of measuring and pinning. Now and then she heard Sam's low murmur as he assisted her father or rummaged in drawers for the correct color thread. It was a gentle, steady rhythm. And then, mid-afternoon, the door swung open with a sharp jingle. Lucy looked up from her project to see 2 men enter. They were dressed in casual shirts and slacks, but something about their stance, tense shoulders, darting eyes, made Lucy's stomach clench. Sam, who was sorting thread spools at a table near the back, froze. The men stepped inside, scanning the room. One had a faint scar on his cheek. The other wore sunglasses despite being indoors. Their gazes locked onto Sam with grim purpose. Lucy felt her pulse spike. She moved to stand near Sam, a protective instinct flaring. Mr. Williams emerged from behind the counter, polite smile at the ready. "Afternoon, gentlemen. Can I help you find anything?" The man with the scar barely glanced at him. "We're looking for a friend," he said, voice cool. "Heard he might be here." Lucy's mind raced. Did they know Sam was here, or were they fishing? She forced her expression to remain calm, stepping protectively in front of Sam. Sam's breath hitched. She sensed panic vibrating off him. "We don't get many visitors," she said, feigning confusion. "Who's your friend?" The man in sunglasses snorted. "Tall, brown hair, wearing a borrowed shirt, maybe?" He lifted a finger to point at Sam. "Actually, that might be him." Mr. Williams caught Lucy's eye, warning in his gaze. Sam shifted, knuckles white around the spool he was holding. Lucy's heart pounded. She recalled his words. "They want me back." Could these be the ones chasing him? "Is there a problem?" Mr. Williams asked, voice cool but firm. "Yes," the scarred man said, stepping forward. "He's got obligations, and we're here to remind him it's time to return." Lucy saw Sam's chest heave as if struggling to breathe. She inched closer to him. "He doesn't owe you anything," she retorted, heat rising in her tone despite her fear. The second man, sunglasses, smirked. "Honey, you have no idea what you're talking about." Alarmed, Mr. Williams intervened. "I won't have you harassing anyone in my shop. If Sam is your friend, why not talk outside calmly?" He kept his voice steady, though Lucy saw tension in his jaw. The man with the scar let out a dry chuckle. "We're not leaving without him. Unless you want us to call the police?" Lucy bristled at the threat, but Mr. Williams remained collected. "Police might be a good idea if someone's being harassed," he said pointedly. That made the intruders hesitate. Clearly, they'd counted on intimidation, not a direct confrontation. The tension soared, Lucy's heart hammering. Sam stood behind her, silent, but she could practically feel the dread rolling off him. Sunglasses scowled. "Look, we just want to talk with him, remind him of his responsibilities. He left a lot behind and people aren't happy." His gaze flicked to Sam. "You know how this goes. We can't just let you wander off scot-free." Lucy clenched her fists. "He's not going anywhere unless he wants to," she declared, voice shaking but determined. Scar let out a short laugh. "You're brave, girl, but you don't know what you're dealing with." Then, turning to Sam, he added, "You can't run forever, Sam." The board wants answers. The board, Lucy thought. A swirl of confusion battered her. Sam had mentioned business deals, somewhere he walked away from. A board suggested something big, maybe a corporation or a major investment group. That would explain the resources to track him down. Mr. Williams stepped fully between them and Sam. "I'm asking you politely to leave. We don't allow threats in this shop." Scar met his gaze with a hard glint, then exhaled, apparently deciding not to escalate further inside a public place. Sunglasses moved to the door, but before leaving, Scar pointed at Sam. "We're staying in town a few more days. Don't be stupid. Come meet with us, or the situation gets worse." With that, they left, the door slamming shut behind them. A suffocating silence followed. Lucy exhaled, legs shaky. Her father locked the door, flipping the sign to closed, then turned to Sam. "You okay?" Sam trembled, carefully setting the spool of thread on the table so it wouldn't fall from his shaking hands. I'm sorry," he whispered, looking at the floor. "I brought trouble here." Lucy's chest squeezed with compassion. She reached out to rest a hand on his arm. "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." Mr. Williams nodded, though concern etched his face. "We'll handle it. They're just bullies trying to scare you." Sam pressed his lips together, wincing. "They have resources. They can make life difficult. Maybe I should go so you won't get caught in the crossfire." Lucy felt a surge of panic at the thought of him vanishing again, unprotected. "No," she insisted, voice firm. "You're safer here with us." He shook his head, stepping back, desperation in his eyes. "I won't put you in danger. I've seen what these people can do." Mr. Williams spoke calmly, like a steady anchor. "Sam, if we give in to bullies, they win. We stand by friends. Let's not make hasty decisions. Give it at least a day or so. Talk this through. See if we can find another solution." Tears gleamed in Sam's eyes, though he blinked them away. The vulnerability he displayed was heartbreaking to Lucy. She realized just how cornered he felt, caught between a corporate world that demanded his return and a humble town offering him refuge. At length, he nodded, but his shoulders remained slumped in defeat. Lucy swallowed hard. "We can call the local police ourselves," she offered, though she wasn't sure how far that would go if these men had powerful connections. Sam grimaced, glancing toward the closed door. Let me think about it. I just need a minute." Sensing the storm inside him, Lucy stepped closer. "We're with you, whatever happens," she said softly. He looked at her, nodding once, tears threatening again. Then, as though needing air, he turned and retreated to the back of the shop. Lucy stared after him, heart twisting. Her father placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, murmuring, "We'll figure it out." She prayed he was right, but dread coiled in her stomach. This wasn't just a personal feud, this was bigger, involving the board and men who clearly wouldn't back down easily. Still, Lucy refused to let Sam face it alone. Something told her this was the crossroads that could determine his fate, and possibly the course of her family's future as well. Lucy watched Sam vanish into the back room, her heart hammering from the confrontation that had just rattled the shop. Mr. Williams gently squeezed her shoulder, then set about flipping the shop's sign to closed and locking the door. With practiced calm, he guided Lucy toward the rear of the store, where Sam stood by a rack of unclaimed garments, trying to steady himself. "Sam," Lucy murmured, stepping closer. She could see tension radiating from him. His posture was rigid, his hands clenched into fists. "It's okay. They're gone for now." He exhaled a shaky breath. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "I told you. I bring trouble." Mr. Williams joined them, voice soft and measured. "We're not helpless here, you know. This is our town. We have rights. If they try threatening you again, we can call the police, report harassment." Sam glanced at him, eyes haunted. These aren't just petty thugs. They represent a powerful organization. Police might not be enough. Lucy exchanged a worried look with her father. "Then we'll do whatever it takes. If they push too hard, we'll get lawyers involved. We'll tell the whole town. There's strength in community." Sam pressed his lips together, as if torn between gratitude and guilt. "My old life. It's a major corporation. I was a key figure, part of an executive board. Then I stepped down. They said I had obligations, but I couldn't keep going. So I walked. They didn't take kindly to that." Lucy's heart twinged at hearing him speak plainly for the first time about who he was. She'd suspected he'd once inhabited a world of influence, but it still startled her to know the scale. "And they want you back?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said, voice raw. "They poured money into expansions, deals, and they think I'm critical to finishing them. They won't stop until I return or sign away certain powers I hold." He paused, glancing at the garment rack as though it might collapse under the weight of his confession. "But that world, it was killing me. I needed to get out." Mr. Williams listened, his gentle eyes filled with sympathy. "You have the right to leave any job you don't want." "Not if they control every aspect of your life," Sam murmured, bitterness creeping in. "They threatened to ruin me, take my assets, freeze my accounts, blacken my name. I tried to vanish, but I wasn't careful enough." Lucy reached out, letting her fingertips brush the back of Sam's hand. "You deserve freedom," she said quietly. "We'll do our best to help you keep it." He gripped her hand, not caring if the gesture betrayed his vulnerability. "I don't know if it's possible to outrun them." A short silence followed, broken only by the distant hum of a sewing machine Lucy had yet to switch off. Mr. Williams cleared his throat. "Look, we can't pretend to be experts in corporate battles, but we can stand by you here. If they come back, we'll be ready. Our neighbors won't tolerate harassment either, and if you decide you need legal representation, maybe we can find someone in the next town." Sam swallowed, tears shining at the edges of his eyes. "Why would you do all that for me?" Lucy's expression wavered between compassion and determination. "Because you matter. Because you're our friend." His gaze flicked from Lucy to her father, overwhelmed by a warmth he clearly wasn't used to. "Thank you," he whispered. I'm not sure if I'll stay. I don't want to drag you into a lawsuit or personal feud." Mr. Williams placed a gentle hand on Sam's shoulder. "Whatever you decide, we'll respect it. But know you have a home here if you need it. We stand together." They drifted to the front of the shop, forging a quiet plan. Lucy locked the back door, shutting out the memories of the intruders. For the remainder of the afternoon, none of them felt like tending to clients or focusing on alterations. Lucy and her father decided to keep the shop closed for the day. If a customer knocked, they'd politely reschedule. A hush fell over the store as Lucy gathered her belongings and Sam retrieved the borrowed flannel coat from a hook near the door. Venturing outside, Lucy and her father scanned the street. No sign of the men, nor any suspicious car lurking. The usual midday bustle of neighbors and passers-by continued, oblivious to the tension beneath the surface. Lucy took Sam's arm gently, guiding him back toward their home. "Let's get inside," she whispered. They walked quickly, though Sam kept glancing over his shoulder. The few blocks to the Williams home felt longer than ever, but eventually they reached the small porch. Caleb was inside, rummaging through the fridge for a snack, and he rushed to greet them. Lucy's father discreetly motioned for him to keep calm, explaining they'd had a scare at the shop. "What are we going to do?" Caleb blurted wide-eyed. Lucy handed Sam a glass of water, then took her brother aside. "It's complicated. We just have to be vigilant. Don't let strangers in without Dad around, okay?" Caleb nodded, clearly spooked. Lucy returned to Sam, who sat on the living room couch, hands clasped in his lap. Mr. Williams lingered by the window, parting the curtains to see if anyone suspicious followed them. "I don't see anything," he finally said, letting the curtain drop. Sam exhaled. "Maybe they'll just leave me alone for a day or two. But if they don't—" Lucy's father nodded grimly. "We can talk to the police chief. He's a fair man. Might at least warn these visitors that we won't tolerate intimidation." "Would that help?" Lucy asked, turning to Sam. "Do you think it'd scare them off?" Sam's gaze flickered with doubt. "They might back off, but it wouldn't solve the bigger problem. They want me to sign away my shares, my rights to certain decisions. If I do, they'll have total control." He grimaced. "Then again, maybe that's better than living in fear. Maybe I should just sign." Lucy felt a jolt. "But that would mean losing everything, right? Your independence, your stake in the company you helped build?" He shrugged wearily. "What good is a stake if it costs me my peace and puts others at risk?" Mr. Williams crossed his arms. "Only you can decide what's worth fighting for. But from what I can see, you left for a reason. Signing might trap you again, just in a different way." Sam slumped back. "I don't know. I feel cornered." A hush fell, the weight of the dilemma pressing into the small living room. Lucy's heart ached for him. She recalled how Mary, her mother, had once told her that the greatest battles often take place inside us. It wasn't just about finances or boardroom deals. It was about Sam's freedom, his soul. She mustered her courage. "We can call an attorney, maybe. Talk about your options," she said. "See if there's a path that doesn't mean giving up everything or living on the run." Sam stared at her, wrestling with the swirling fear in his eyes. "I don't want to drag you all into a legal mess." Mr. Williams sighed but smiled gently. "We're already in it, Sam, just by having you here, but we choose to stand by you. Let's see if we can find a lawyer who'd at least advise you. There must be some out there who specialize in corporate exit strategies." Sam glanced away, tears threatening again. "You're all too kind. I never expected any of this." Lucy's chest tightened with empathy. She carefully placed a hand on his arm. "Sometimes kindness is exactly what we need when we're cornered. Let's not give up yet." He nodded, pressing his lips together as though to hold back emotion. Caleb, who had been standing in the doorway, approached quietly. "We won't let them scare us," the boy declared. "Dad knows a lot of people around here, and Lucy's friends can help too." Surprised at Caleb's boldness, Lucy smiled, heart warmed by her brother's display of loyalty. Sam attempted a small grin in return. "Thanks, kid." Afternoon melted into evening, no further intrusions. Lucy prepared a simple stew for dinner, and they ate together in a subdued hush. Sam contributed by chopping vegetables, the repetitive motion easing his anxiety. After dinner, Mr. Williams phoned a distant cousin who worked for a reputable law firm, leaving a brief message about needing advice. They doubted they'd get an instant miracle, but it was a start. Later that night, Lucy found Sam in the backyard, perched on a small wooden bench under the faint glow of a porch light. The sky was clear now, dotted with stars. She approached gently, sitting beside him. A breeze rustled through the marigolds she'd planted, their petals glimmering in the half-light. "You all right?" she asked, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the chill. He nodded slowly, gaze fixed on the night sky. "It's peaceful here," he whispered. "Feels unreal after what happened today." Lucy studied his profile. Tired eyes, worry etched in lines on his forehead. "We'll face tomorrow when it comes," she said softly. "No matter what, you're not alone." His lips twitched in a sad smile. "That's the hardest part to accept," he admitted. "I've been alone for so long. Trusting people doesn't come easy." She recalled the note she'd written him. "You are not alone." It had felt like a simple phrase at the time, but perhaps it was the promise he needed more than anything. She slipped her hand into his, giving it a gentle squeeze. He accepted the gesture, leaning into the warmth of her kindness. Minutes passed with neither speaking. A swirl of unspoken concerns lay just beneath the surface. The board's next move, the men who had threatened him, the possibility of a legal fight. But the hush of the garden offered a small reprieve. Lucy breathed in the scent of damp earth, the distant chirp of crickets reminding her that life carried on even in the midst of turmoil. Eventually, Sam broke the silence. "Lucy, if I sign those documents, I lose any chance of influencing how they run things. People could be hurt by unethical decisions. That's the real reason I couldn't stay. I refuse to be part of something morally bankrupt, so they want me out or under their thumb." She nodded, admiration filling her chest. "Then that's all the more reason not to sign. Your integrity matters, Sam, more than money or power." He closed his eyes, leaning back against the bench. "I can't do it alone." "You don't have to," Lucy replied. "We might not be able to solve everything, but we'll stand beside you while you fight. And maybe we'll find allies, someone who believes in your cause." For a moment, Sam's face revealed raw gratitude. "I never imagined this kind of help existed." Lucy laughed gently, her voice catching with emotion. "Well, you gave us a chance to prove it." They sat in that hush, side by side, while the stars blinked overhead. Lucy thought of her mother and father's guiding principles, that love, compassion, and community could mend more wounds than any corporate deal or personal fortune. Maybe Sam's old life had taught him to see the world as a ruthless arena. But here, in this quiet corner of town, he was discovering a different reality. Eventually, they rose. Lucy walked him back inside, the glow of porch light fading as they stepped through the door. Mr. Williams was in the living room, scribbling notes on a pad, presumably drafting questions to ask that cousin lawyer. Caleb had already retreated to his room, music playing faintly through the walls. With a soft good night, Lucy guided Sam to the spare room. He paused on the threshold, turning to her. The flicker of worry and hope mingled in his eyes. "Thank you," he said, voice low. "I never expected to find a family like this." Lucy's heart swelled. "Family is whoever stands by you when it counts. Rest well. We'll figure out the next step tomorrow." He nodded, stepping inside. Lucy watched him for a moment longer, then returned to her own room. Despite the swirl of unresolved threats, she felt a strange calm settle in her. They had faced fear head-on today, and though the fight was far from over, Sam wasn't running anymore. He was letting them stand beside him. That night, Lucy drifted to sleep, imagining new possibilities, contacting a lawyer who believed in justice, rallying the town if needed. If the men returned, they wouldn't find Sam alone and afraid. They'd face a humble but determined family willing to fight for what was right. And no matter how large or powerful that board was, Lucy believed that truth, kindness, and a strong community could stand up to the darkest corners of the world. The future might still hold struggles, but tonight, under the Williams roof, Sam was safe, and not alone. And as Lucy slipped into slumber, she felt a gentle conviction that sometimes the greatest battles are not won by wealth or intimidation, but by love, unwavering and steadfast, binding hearts together in the face of impossible odds. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen